revolution. Computed to your memory.
What's up, everybody? It's the Info Junkies. I am your host, Steve, my co-host, Quan.
What's going on?
And this is Sports Talk, where we discuss all things sports. And we're just going to jump right into it. Terrelle Pryor Jr., who is a receiver for the Washington Redskins, complained that during the game with the Kansas City Chiefs, a fan from the Kansas City Chiefs kept calling him the N-word. He flipped his middle finger up at the fan, and he says that he had to call NFL, security in on that person. When I first heard about this, unfortunately, it's hard. It's as hard as it is for me to say this. When I hear about this, I always become skeptical because when you're dealing with somebody like that, when you're at a game, it's hard for me to believe that simply because that not that people still use the N-word, because people still clearly use the N-word all the time. Mm-hmm. But it's just like it's a convenient excuse to me, where if I do something that I know can get criticism, the easiest thing to throw out is say, well, I thought I heard the N-word, so it prompted this reaction. And then everybody else says, well, hey, your reaction's justified because this guy threw out a racial slur at you. Is the critique of this going to be, the NFL's racist now because this guy said the N-word? Or do we just apply the blame to this one fan and say, hey, this fan was a moron, and we kick him out and we move on with our lives?
I just feel like, in general, it just reminds me how far we digress. I mean, as a country, we're supposed to be moving forward.
But how are we digressing, though? I mean, it doesn't
because look at the day and age we live in now, where racism is at the forefront.
It's at the forefront because the media wants it to be at the forefront.
As a result, it's in the forefront. So my thing
to me, that doesn't mean we're digressing. I mean, once again, we just came away from having a black president for 2 terms. I mean, you can't.
I'm not saying we're, as a country, we're going completely backwards, but it's certain elements of racism that's in the forefront that is absolutely ridiculous. Look at it. I'm not saying it never
but once again,
existed.
look at society's reaction. To me, when you say we're digressing, that means society is going backwards to being racist.
I mean, there's a lot of examples I can get.
But once again, look at society every single time that happens. They condemn whoever it is in the strongest terms. This fan is never going to be welcome at an NFL game again. Most people feel for Terrelle Pryor, any black player, anybody who that happens to. I mean, and we dismiss anyone who does that as a racist, as they should be considered a racist, but we dismiss them and we denounce them. The entire country denounces them. So when you say, okay, the country's digressing,
because there's so many cases of incidents like this going on and it's so frequent. But I have never seen so much racism just run rapid.
I mean, that's kind of hard to say considering that we didn't live under segregation.
I'm not saying we're under segregation. Clearly, we're not.
But that's my point. But that's my point to say that we've never seen that. Okay, well, once again, we weren't alive for segregation. We weren't alive for slavery. So, to say that we've never seen it, of course we've never seen it. I was born in 1992. Of course I didn't see any of that. But once again, just because someone makes a comment doesn't mean they're doing. Here's my problem. We assign too much power to a word. The N-word has too much power. When you diffuse the word, the idiots who use it, the reason why they use it is because they know it has power over us. It makes us angry. It brings out the worst feelings in us. But when you literally laugh at them, when they use the word, now you take away their power from being able to control you. Now they know that word can't trigger you. Now they know, okay, now I got to do something else to make you angry. Most of the people who use that word. Now I'm not going to say that anybody who uses the N-word is a racist, because clearly black people use the N-word all the time. So, which is the other side of it. How can you be mad at everyone else when you say, oh, this is our word, we use it as a term of endearment, when the word was never supposed to be a term of endearment? How is it offensive for a white person to call you the N-word, but not for another black person to call you the N-word?
In this society, I mean, it's apparently 2 different versions of the word.
And that's retarded.
I mean,
And that's the problem. But once again, you call a white person a cracker, they're just supposed to sit there and take it. That's supposed to be okay. So we can slander them, but they can't slander us?
I understand his reaction. I would not have reacted exactly like how you, but I would have gotten offended.
Well, of course. I mean, you're sitting there playing a game, and he's just randomly. I mean, yeah. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the guy shouldn't have been thrown out. Here's my position: the man has all rights to be able to say that word on his own time. But when you're at a private establishment, the NFL is a private business. The business owners of that business can do with that business whatever they want. So if they don't want you in there saying the N-word, bye-bye, you're gone.
Yep.
And as to me, if I had a business, if you use the N-word at one of my patrons, yes, you're gone, you're done, period. And you can never come back. Because that's right, you're not going to disrespect my customers. But, I still think his reaction when we talk about leaders, we talk about, people who are supposed to be held to a higher standard, regardless of whether they want to or not. You're held to a higher standard. That reaction, because you want to talk about being offended. How about parents who are at that game who don't want their kids to see players flipping other people off? That's also offensive.
You watch that video clip? The parent didn't even say anything. The parent was sitting right there and didn't even say anything. Like, you heard child say something.
So it was a kid that yelled the N-word at him.
Right.
Well, but once again, the kid and his parents are gone now. I mean, to me, you're done. And once again, that now the problem's solved. So now, do we make it a bigger issue than it is, or do we say, hey, look, these people are ignorant. We've dealt with them. Now let's move on.
Well, it's not as simple as that. I mean, unfortunately.
It's not that simple because people don't want it to be that simple. And
it should be that simple.
That's what I'm saying. It should be as simple as you're ignorant, you're stupid, you want to call people the N-word, bye.
It's just crazy that a lot of people, and they're just so bold with it now. They just say whatever they want. That just what baffles me. Just the boldness in people's characters nowadays.
They've always been bold. We just didn't have 24-hour social media and news to cover it.
Yeah, in the social media age, and
that's what I'm saying. But see, and that's my point of why it seems like it's bold, because it's really not bold. It's really not. They just, once again, you catch more of it now because with every modern cell phone, you have a camera. You can, as soon as someone starts talking to you, boom, you're recording them 10 seconds into it. So, it seems like it's more, but in all actuality, it's really not.
I feel like you're just highlighting what's been going on this whole time. There's certain aspects of it that I feel like we need to move forward instead of going backwards. That's just how I feel about it. Because I went to the African American Museum in DC, and you're in the elevator, and it has all the like certain dates in history where had certain accomplishments and all that stuff. And as I was going with the elevator, it goes up, I believe, 1930 or something like that, all the way to the present day. And as I was going up the elevator, it seemed like you're walking through history. It has the details of what happened, in each year and all that stuff. And just knowing what's going on now, it just makes me question. It's like as a country, it just feel like we taking little steps back when we have made so much progress in this area.
I don't see it as taking any steps back. I think it's, once again, we conflate ignorant people or people who just are not taught how to express themselves in any other way except for the way that, in a derogatory way. And we utilize that to create a false conception of oppression.
It's all this white supremacist stuff, people burning down all this crazy stuff going on, even that protest that happened
in Charlottesville.
In Charlottesville.
How does that oppress you?
It doesn't oppress me. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying as a country, like, you look at the news.
Okay, but once again, they have their First Amendment right. What it turned into was not good, but they do have a First Amendment right to protest. They have is
that the problem? The simple, okay, you protest.
But it doesn't. But to me, it doesn't matter what their message is. We all know that they're stupid. First of all, there wasn't a whole lot of them.
But that's my point, though. That alone is my only point. It's not them protesting. Like I said, that's their right to do that. That's fine. Just the reasons behind it is like. Come on.
But once again,
as a country, because we're moving forward from this stuff.
But here's the thing.
That's what I mean by
you're never going to get rid of all that stuff. You're never going to get rid of it all. as long as there's human nature, there's going to be people who
I'm not saying it would. I'm pretty clearly it's been existing for forever.
But that's what I'm saying. When you say we're moving forward, we're not moving forward. We are. Name something that you and I can't do because we're black.
I think I said it earlier. We made tremendous
progress. Okay, that's why I'm wondering. Okay, where?
But I said it's little things like events that happened in Charlottesville, or just the numerous of other stuff you can find that's been going on lately. It feels like to me that we're living in the history books back in 1940s or 1950s and 60s and stuff like that.
Once again, how? In the 1940s, 1950s, there was actual oppression holding you back.
I'm not talking about in that aspect of oppression.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Okay, how can we be back then when there was a combination of all of the wrong that was going on back then? We conflate words with action. I mean, once again, just because people hold a particular opinion doesn't mean that they have an overwhelming control with that opinion. I mean, when you talk about the Charlottesville thing, there was very few of them out there. The media made it seem like there was more. You talk about the alt-right, there's very few of them. White nationalists, there's very few of them. Most people, you look at the country in 1960, the vast majority of the country would never vote for a black president and didn't support interracial marriage. You look at the country now, 87% of the country supports interracial marriage, and the majority of the country voted Barack Obama in twice. So I mean, to me, when you look at all the strides that have been taken, I mean, what really affects our day to day? Nothing. Just because someone yells out the N-word, did it really affect me, or did it just make me feel bad?
The fact of it happening, of this stuff happening, is my point. Not so much the reason behind it, because again, when I look on the news and I see something happen in Charlottesville, well, it's not affecting me. Or if someone called me the N-word, like you said, or because you said that thing doesn't make me, I don't have to be a slave to that word. Again, my only point was just that because there's been so much of this stuff happening, it just makes me feel like, we made some small strides backwards. Considering that we made so much, this huge progress over the years. That's all. I just feel like little small stuff like this is like, okay, why does stuff keep happening?
I mean, to me, if it's not discrimination, if they're not legitimately doing anything to literally affect your life, doesn't matter.
But it's happening though. It keeps happening.
That's what I'm saying. If it doesn't affect,
it doesn't have to affect me.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about black people as a whole. Okay, if something's happened to you, if a policeman pulls you over just because you're black, which, we're not gonna get into that. But if he pulls you over because you're black, okay, that affects you. If you don't get a job, if a guy won't give you a job because you're black, that affects you. If a guy walks past you and yells the N-word, that doesn't affect you. If people hold a rally saying they hate Jews, that doesn't affect you. If a bunch of white nationalists want to get together and raise their fists or raise their arms in a Heil Hitler salute, that doesn't affect me. When they try to get into power and do policy, that would negatively affect me. That affects me. If it doesn't affect me, why do I care? I don't care if you walk around yelling the N-word. You're the idiot, not me. You're the ignorant one, not me.
I mean, I can say that because you're right. They are the idiot. But it just when I see that in my head, it's like how many more people that does the same thing or says the same thing out their mouth. So that turns into another thought. Hey, as a country, this is ridiculous. The fact that so many people had the same boldness.
Well, once again, you're taking an idea and.
So it doesn't affect me directly.
Here's the thing: you can't project this person's beliefs or opinions onto someone else.
I'm not saying everybody.
Well, that's what you're saying.
A lot of people,
that's legitimately what you said.
Yeah, but you can look on the news. A lot of people, this racism stuff is ridiculous.
In this country, there's not a lot of people who are racist. There's not a lot of people.
Well, they're running rapid. Clearly,
who?
They're everywhere. Go on the news everywhere.
Where are they everywhere?
Everything's about racism.
Once again, that's because people make it about racism. Look at the percentage of the alt-right, the white nationalists. There's not a lot of them. The vast majority of the quote-unquote white community don't like nor want them in their community. So once again, when you say that this is a lot of people, okay. Once again, whenever one of them even comes close to smelling power, they put them down. So I mean, it's just like I can't just like I can't say that just because you're black you have a certain opinion. You can't say just because people are white or this one person has it, so there has to be a lot of people. Once again, the media wants you to think there are a lot of white nationalists. There aren't. Most white people don't care about that. Most white people just want to be left alone and go about their lives. Just like most black people do. Most people don't get caught up in this nonsense. It's the media and the radical elements on both sides who want us to believe that this is a major issue in this country, when most people in this country don't care.
So you believe racism isn't a problem in the country at all?
I said it. I mean, once again, there's always going to be racism.
No, that's not the point. I know it exists.
No, racism is not a major factor in this country.
Okay.
I mean, once again, where is it a major factor? Just because 100 or 200 guys get up and yell the N-word doesn't mean that it's a major factor. It means 100 people from whatever backwards mental group that they're from are stupid. That's what it means.
So in this case with Terrelle Pryor and the fan that called him the word, you feel like that particular fan just idiot and he should just be banned,
ejected, and they never should be welcomed back. And the NFL needs to move on, because if you continue to dwell on this, once again, you take something that's not supposed to be political or racial. You take the NFL, which is supposed to be about people throwing and running a pigskin toward a touchdown, and 11 people on the other side stopping them. That's what the football is supposed to be about. You take the simplicity of that game and you poison it with politics, race, religion, whatever. You poison it.
And we were debating this actually before we started recording. I mean, politics and sports kind of go hand in hand now.
Unfortunately, as does race in sports, because it's all about race. It's all about this. It's all about that. I wholeheartedly believe in what Martin Luther King said, and I know people get mad when you say this, but Martin Luther King said in his "I Have a Dream" speech, I'm paraphrasing, judge people on their content of their character, not on the color of their skin, not on, now this is my extended belief, but not on their political opinion, not on their genitalia, not on their sexual preference, not on any of that. What is your character? What is your character? I wholeheartedly believe that you have the First Amendment right to say and do whatever you want, as long as you don't infringe upon anyone else's rights. But I also believe that, okay, if what you say does reflect on what your character is. And yes, these people who go around doing these things, they're bad people. But they don't reflect on the country as a whole, that millions and millions of people from other countries want to come to this country. If it was so racist and if it was so bad, why would all these people from all these other countries want to come here?
Is that to say that it's not a huge problem in this country? You're crazy if you think that racism isn't one of the biggest problems going on in society today. There's numerous reports, numerous events that I can reference to support my argument. Racism is wrong, and comments like this shouldn't be allowed in society. It's most definitely in the NFL.